Hey, hey! Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Blue Gamer Bluecast Morning Show. I'm your host, Adam Blue, 30 plus year video game enthusiast and industry analyst. And today, for May 27th, 2026, we'll run through the latest gaming news, what I've been playing, etc., etc. I did that really quick. Hey, Ultronymous. Yeah, I was rebuilding the loading screen. Yeah, I guess I have been lately kind of cleaning out the files of my computer. And it's funny sometimes how often there are, I guess I would say, like live files, live data used for things that are just in my downloads folder. That's not good practice. So I had to move those, and then I'm going to rebuild. Although actually, while I was rebuilding that, I was like, you know what? It would be cooler if it was like a slideshow, because I actually have tons of photos that have to do with me and gaming at conventions with game developers, all this cool me as a kid doing gaming stuff. So I think I'm going to try to like get that all together, make a slideshow. But anyway, I'm really excited to get back. Oh, man, Wednesday. See, I miss doing this show every day. Hey, Jim Kelly, it's good to see you. I used to do it every morning, and then I've been doing the thing where I do the Gundam stuff on Tuesday and Thursday. And it's just, I feel like it's better for me at the end of the day because there are times where there's nothing gaming to talk about for a while. But there's always like more Gundam things I want to get into, especially Gundam gaming. So I don't know. I'm just trying this out where I do Blue Gamer and Gundam still, but sometimes I'm like, man, I'd rather just do all Blue Gamer in the morning and then maybe Gundam another time. But with work and stuff, it's hard to even that out. So anyway, it'll be an evolution. But it's cool to see you guys. So yeah, the reason I didn't stream Monday was just because, I woke up super early like I usually do, and I was just kind of chilling. I think I did a walk. And then as it was getting closer to doing the show, I was like, no, this is a really interesting day because off work, wife is off work too. It was the first day of the kids' summer vacation. So the kids were home. Not that they were awake at that moment, but I just kind of felt that, you know what, I'm just going to relax. Everyone's at the house. It just felt good, so that was that. But I spent that time playing games, and we're going to get to that here shortly. By the way, if you haven't checked it out on the Gundam Explained in the morning on Tuesday, Thursday, I've been playing that Super Nintendo Wing fighting game. I'm getting my butt handed to me, which is pretty cool. I mean, I enjoy that. Like, I love the way it plays, and I love getting my ass handed to me because then I can learn to be better. I love fighting games. That's what I like about fighting games. I like not really knowing what the moves are and kind of feeling, okay, what type of fighting game is this? Is this more SNK? Is this more Capcom? Is this more Sega? Is this a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then from there try to figure out moves? That's like I don't know if that's some sort of undiscussed, if that's a word, sort of element to fighting games for me. Like, I feel like there's times when I've gotten into fighting games in the past, especially with the Dead or Alive. I think Dead or Alive 4 was the last time where it's like I got obsessed, not obsessed, but I was like really deep into everyone's moves, who's the meta online. And that's not as fun as just kind of organically figuring it out. But anyway, let's dive into what I've been playing, because that's going to be the fun part here. So yes, so we left off last weekend where I had been talking about R-Type Dimensions 3. Dimensions. And, there was a lot of bugs, and I was like, oh, I'm going to wait. But then it was on sale for a pretty low price. And I love listening to the music in the trailer. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to jump into R-Type Dimensions 3. And boy, is it a fun game. But there are the areas that were brought up in some reviews, impressions, where it's not as tight. And for me, I'm not noticing a lot of that until near the end of the game. And I've already done a playthrough where there are some areas that are just impossible. Like, I don't know how I could do this, although I die and then I start over again. So, eventually you do. But it's just, I feel like our attentions nowadays are kind of spread thin, where it's really hard to, if you're a gamer of a lot of different games, if you weren't already into shmups, it's kind of hard to get into that if that's not your thing. But R-Type Dimensions 3 is great. Can't wait for the update to fix some of the bugs. It looks great. And and yeah, maybe I should pull something up here, or maybe I'll show it. I don't know. But strangely, I never thought I would say this. Hey, man, you can barely see, but it's like one of the best looking 2D to 3D games I've seen. I want to say I said that with another game recently. There is something about the way, and maybe this is what it is. So in the game, you can press Y, I think, to switch to the 16-bit SNES graphics, and then press again to switch back. It's nearly 1-to-1. The only difference is there's more of a cohesiveness of the edge of an object, an item, in terms of the pixelation versus the polygon. So there's something about the way they did the 1-to-1 where it is very clean, it's clear. Like even the original, you can see here, looked fantastic, but it's something. Oh yeah, there's a good, like, this is the new one, right? And the old one. Now, yeah, the background's a little different, but you can see it's like, it's not like they added a whole lot to make it. In Steven of Midnight Hatter and I have talked about this sometimes. With 3D objects, you can get too detailed to where you can't even tell what's going on. And I'm actually shocked with the game as small in budget as R-Type 3 Dimensions, or R-Type Dimensions 3, having really clean pixel or polygon graphics for what's traditionally 2D. So shout out to them on that. Having a fun time. Okay. So, I'm going to get to Lego Batman in a second. Played some more Exodiac, jumping back into some more Star Fox. Jumping into that Tainted Grail, it's a game I played here about a year ago, actually. And then they've come out with new updates, and it's pretty cool. This is just like a first-person action game. I'm playing in third person, but it's just a cool medieval action game. For some reason, like medieval action games are universally loved. Like, it's like, what is this combat really? You get in, and it's pretty cool the way it works. I might play it more, but I would want to get the full version because apparently there's a bunch of bugs and issues that might still be in the demo that's not in the full version, which they did an overhaul. So I'll look that up later. And then on the Gundam Explained channel, I'm still playing Shin Kiddo Senki Gundam W Endless Duel. It's just a fighting game. It's a really well-made fighting game. As I was talking about earlier with playing fighting games and trying to figure out controls, I'm shocked. Like, no shade to like Fatal Fury, World Heroes. There's some other ones during that time where when I would play them, it's like, it doesn't really feel like Street Fighter 2 or later SNK. And I don't know, they just kind of nailed it. I have to research the development on that. And then playing 007 First Light. So let's talk about these two, shall we? Let's start with Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. This is a Lego game. And I was looking earlier, and I might not have all of my Lego history, but I've already played 6 hours of this Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. Almost 2 hours Lego Voyagers, 21 hours of the Skywalker Saga, 22 of Lego Batman DC Heroes, 3 minutes of Lego Star Wars 2, the original. I've played those a lot more, but it could have been that they were back when it was like Xbox or game things that are not being tracked. So Lego City Undercover, 5 hours. Lego Dimensions, 32 hours. Speaking of dimensions. Did you guys ever play Lego Dimensions? Like, that was fun. Even with the kids, we would buy the packs, put them on the thing. I forget how it went, and then you would just play or whatever. Lego Marvel Superheroes, Indiana Jones. So, I mean, I do have a history with these Lego games, but what's interesting about Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, it's really an Arkham game. Okay? So it's a Batman Arkham game that just has the aesthetic of a Lego Batman game. It's open world. The lighting effects are Arkham style, like as you're going through the open world, it's like this just looks just like Arkham, the Arkham games. And the combat, it's that typical that direction punch. What is it? Deflect, parry. Parry is like all that basic stuff, dodge out of the way, a bunch of enemies. And that is fun, but it's not what it's like as I'm playing, it's not what I want out of the game. There's something about these Lego games where it's more about the journey of breaking stuff, building stuff, collecting Lego pieces so you can buy other Lego stuff. Like that's the flow. So it's interesting that this game, the flow is more in the combat aspect, but I will say it's also not as interesting. Like, yes, that's cool that they have this Batman Arkham combat in here, but that's actually not what I'm playing this for. And as I'm then playing the Batman Arkham combat, I'm like, well, this isn't as fun as a traditional action game. This is like a kid's version of it, which is again not to, you know, these Lego games have always been more family friendly. But even with the inclusion of the Arkham combat, it's still super simple. I mean, to the point to where you can actually do stealth the whole time and not actually fight anyone. So there's still the options for that. It's odd in some areas. Like there's this one area where I took out everyone with stealth except one guy, and I was like, well, I'll just go do a cool move on this guy. I'll fight him. But because I alerted him, it then had a whole bunch of guys come out that you then have to fight. And sometimes it gets boring. It does take some time because you're just punching this way, punching that way, dodging this way, punching. You're just doing that back and forth for a while, and then it's like, okay. And then whenever you come up to areas where you're having to build something Lego, it's super arbitrary, super random. There's not any thought to the building, which I don't think there ever really was. But basically what I'm getting at is it's an Arkham game that's disguised as a Lego game. But it's a simple and easy Arkham game. And where I think, you can see I've played 6 hours and 36 minutes, which is quite a while. And I'll say what my takeaway is the fun of it is going to be just exploring the open world. I would say if you start this, and I might do this, and me and my brother were talking about this, putting it on the easiest difficulty, because the difficulty seems to be in the swarm of enemies. And it just takes time and it's boring. So if you put it on an easy difficulty and it reduces the time that you have to attack these enemies, it's kind of boring. I might rather go with that because I do just want to explore the world, Gotham, get the chest, get the, that aspect of open world games I enjoy. Doing it as Batman with the Batman music and the Batman costume. So a lot to like about this game. At the end of the day, I do think it's worth it, but it's very easy to notice some of its downfalls. So I'll say that. Let's see. There's something I saw earlier. GMKLX, you brought up Soul Calibur. On Dreamcast, that is one exactly where I would learn all, and it was just for the single player. I would play through the single player. You can like max it with unlocking the gallery, the art or whatever. I remember on my VMU, I would complete 100% Soul Calibur and then delete it and do it again. And that was where I was learning the moves of every character and all that. That's a good call out. You know what? My first Arkham, that's pretty good. But Ultronum saying, what did you say? Looks bloody great. That is the truth. This game looks really good. Playing it on my local PC, I'm surprised. You're just looking at Legos, but like the texture, the crispness, the frame rate, it is amazing. And even when I was playing in the living room, streaming my PC on the Apple 4K TV, it looks great. Anything else to add about this Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight? I think it's a fun game. It's a good game, but it's not as, and maybe this is just how it is nowadays, it's not as revolutionary as I feel like historically a Lego game would be, even a Batman game. And I even think that the Skywalker Lego Saga game that came out, 3 years ago, that was a big deal. That just kind of fell flat. But I wonder if these are just the types of games that just sell well and they're just not talked about online much because they're more family oriented. So I think it's worth it if you're into that. Okay, let's talk about this 007 First Light. As you can see, I've played about 2 hours, 22 minutes. I've actually played a little more. I did this morning. Let me see if I have to do a little profile scan. Here's what I'll say. So first of all, I got it on Xbox because it's Play Anywhere, PC and console. Also, this is made by IO Interactive. They have their own game engine. It's not Unreal, so because of that, it looks really good on Xbox. I'm surprised how well this looks, and it's 60 FPS on Xbox, and it looks really good. And on PC, it, even better. It looks really good. So let's get out of the way. Yeah, it's their own engine, so since it's not Unreal, there's that potential of looking and running better than most games, and it definitely does. The game itself is a mix of, it's like Hitman, but also Sniper Elite, even though maybe they just have the same things, and they kind of do. But the game is structured almost like an old school game. You start the game and then you just go. There's not like a mission map or an overworld map. Maybe there is, and I just haven't got to that yet, actually, because I'm 2 hours and 22 minutes in. Maybe that's something that happens later on. It's just you continue the game, you keep going. There was a time where, what was I doing? There was a time where I was supposed to go somewhere, and I just happened to go the wrong way, and I immediately got destroyed by a bunch of enemies. And then it restarted me, but right where I needed to be, which is kind of a hand-holdy thing. I don't mind that too much. It kind of keeps you going in the game. But so you have sections of the game which are sort of open in a way where you can use a bunch of different tools to do whatever. And that uses cover system hand-to-hand combat. It's very similar to a mix of, again, Sniper Elite, Metal Gear Solid 5, Hitman. It sort of has a lot of those similarities, and it's fun too. You have your punch, you have your parry, and you have your dodge. Very similar to the Batman. It's very similar to this sort of combat that we see in Arkham and Spider-Man, where you're surrounded by enemies. There's the Q for when you need to dodge. There's a Q for when you need to parry, and then when there's an opening, you attack. Oh, you can also grab. You can also grab an enemy, and then you just do like an attack on them. And that stuff is good. It's not amazing, but it works for the short instances to where you have to do that. Because a lot of times you want to be stealthy. You want to use the items around you to hack someone's phone. Well, actually, no. You use your phone to shoot a dart into them to make them sick. There's probably some other stuff you're going to get later. Oh, yeah, the way you could talk to people. You can lure people. You can bluff. It's putting them into a state where then you can take them out, get past them, whatever, just to move on. And then there's a lot of sections where it's almost like mixtape, where you're just walking around and interacting and talking. And then you can just go straight to the mission, or you could stay and talk to the character. So with all these different gameplay elements put together, what I will say is, as a James Bond fan, this is pretty neat and fun and interesting and cool. And maybe even if you're a fan of movies, but I do think that it leans a little too heavily into the Sony PlayStation style prestige third person game, but without it feeling pretentious, if that makes sense. I don't get a sense of that. What I do get a sense is they're trying to make, and maybe this is the future, trying to make that prestige third person game, but lean more into classic gaming sensibilities and not full on cinematic. You don't do anything. It's a very neat balance here. And it makes me believe, like, even with certain aspects of gameplay mechanics that I don't care for that are in this, as a whole, this is definitely Game of the Year material. I'll even say it does things in a way that, like, again, being a third-person prestige type title, but leaning more into classic gaming sensibilities. For instance, the narrative dissonance of you're doing a training mission, and the enemies in the level by the story, or they're not enemies, they're just part of the training. But as you are trying to get through the training, you're pretty much just beating them up. You're not really killing them, but it looks like there's this weird sense where, or even just when you're there's some places where you have to take out people, but like there are obviously people that don't fight. You just have to get around them. You'll grab someone, bash their head on the ground. Grab something, like knee them, throw them on the ground, punch it. Like sometimes it's something that doesn't match, but because this is more of a video game, I accept it and I'll allow it. There is another part too where, again, this game does this often, and I hope it does it more. There's a training montage at the beginning of the game. It's kind of like the tutorial where it's showing you how to do the different gameplay mechanics in the game, but it does it like a movie montage where it plays some cool music, and then all of a sudden it's like, go, and you're on an obstacle course. And then as soon as you get to the end, it doesn't take too long. The next thing is like, it's like, all right, take 3 shots. And so then all of a sudden you're somewhere else, new area. Guys like, you have a gun and you're having to shoot in the range. And then they're like, all right, good job. The next minute you're in a car and it's teaching you how to drive. So that is the most revolutionary thing I've seen in video games in a long time, is taking gameplay mechanics and marrying it with the story, but specifically for the tutorial area. I hope they do that more in this. There's something about, and it almost reminds me of WarioWare. If you're familiar with the WarioWare micro games, or whatever they call it, where there's all these little new gameplay element, and I really liked that. So I'm hoping that happens more in this Bond game. I guess I got to a part that to me is kind of boring, and I beat it already, but it's like you're in a club, and I guess this goes back to how weird this is. Like you're just with the other agents, like not training, so you're like, hey, let's go out to a club and drink. And while you're there, everyone gets a phone call, and there's like a mission in the club to find someone. And, on the surface, as a story element, if that was in a movie, you'd be like, that doesn't make any sense. But because this is a video game, all it did was it gave me a cool environment to do. To utilize all the different tools it's taught me up to that point. Melee combat, sneaking around, using your phone, hacking. And there's low effort, too, in some of it. For instance, I had to get somewhere in the club, but I couldn't. It's like VIP only. And I'm just in a white t-shirt. So I turn around from where I'm at, and then like the game is telling me, like, there's an icon that I can pick up an item, and I look, and it's a server's tray with drinks on it. And then you just walk past with that. Like you didn't really have, it was not like Hitman where you have to get a whole costume. Someone could be suspicious of you. There's none of that. It's streamlined, which again, I think works in the favor of this being a James Bond game. At the end of the day, it's very interesting. Between 007 First Light and Batman, both of these are games that do a lot of things that I don't like, but they're doing it in a production value that allows me to enjoy myself. So it's very fun right now if you're a gamer. And maybe even someone around our age, my age, where James Bond and love James Bond and Batman. And they're coming out with interesting games for these. It's like, part of me was like, just give us like a side-scrolling action game of 007. And it's like, well, we've played a lot of side-scrolling action games, even though I prefer that. But the way they are combining Hitman, kind of the Sony PlayStation prestige game, Sniper Elite, this is a really good game. High production value. I want to add the opening James Bond theme is awesome. It's right up there with any other James Bond theme, I think. Lana Del Rey, I think, is the name of the singer. If I hope I'm saying that right. And I think it said David Arnold, if I'm not mistaken, which he started doing music, I think, since either Tomorrow Never Dies or The World Is Not Enough. I know The World's Not Enough for sure. And then he was doing James Bond music a lot since then, right? Let's look that up, actually. No, not MD. I never typed MD Google. Come on. There we go. So let's see. Video games. Yeah, he did the GoldenEye remake, which I never played, and 007 Legends, which I never played, which I've always wanted to. I think I even have 007 Legends downloaded for the PS3 emulator. It's interesting that, because I did play a lot of James Bond games in the past. So, let's see. Hold up. Oh, let me get this real quick. All right. So I think that's about it then. I don't know what else to say about. Here's the thing though about both Batman and First Light is they're both like full price video games. I think it's really hard to want to spend the money on these coming out, around the same time. Um, Search around for, gg.deals or deals.gg, whatever. Search around for some sales. I got Batman on sale. Didn't get First Light on sale, but that one I was planning to buy, but I bought it on Xbox Anywhere. So I guess buy it on, it's almost like a good value there because I have it on my PC, console, all that. So, let's see. Yeah, I think that's it. I've got some news. Yeah, we're near the end of the show, but I got some news. Let's see. What did I come across? This. Okay. Gradius Generation Black Label is out now. Classic Gradius gameplay packed into a fully featured handheld shmupping experience, complete with modern enhancements such as dynamic rank display, high visibility bullets, a practice mode with upgrade selection, and much more. Best of all, it's free. If you have an original GBA and cartridge of the Japanese release, interesting. Let's see. This project became a total rehaul of the original title, upgrades ranging from the cosmetic to mechanical to extra content. You can hardly find a corner of the game code that was untouched. That's interesting. A brand new enemy, the Option Hunter. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I know the Option Hunters. That's interesting. So I don't know if you guys have ever played Gradius games, probably. I love them. The one on GBA was amazing. Gradius Galaxies, I remember when I bought it. It was at Walmart, and I forget if it was, when did it come out, actually? That might help me. United States as in the same month, and in Japan. Wait, it was released in the United States as Gradius Galaxies later in the same month, and in Japan okay, so November 2001, 2002. Anyway, that was around the time where I graduated high school. Was out on my own. I remember playing this a lot at a security job I had, which was pretty cool. So, but anyway, I guess I would love to play, because Gradius Galaxies was really awesome in the first place. It was sort of like, let's make Gradius on the GBA, but that time do the best of, and to have that with an additional improvements, I'm gonna have to check that out. So anyway, guys, that's it for today. That was a lot of fun. I'll be back later today on Midnight Hatter's channel, and then back tomorrow, Gundam Explained. So until then, have a good one. See y'all.